This is the Rebel Author Podcast, where we talk about books, business, and occasionally bad words. Hello, Rebels, and welcome to episode 252 of the Rebel Author Podcast. Today, I have a great episode talking to Kate Hall all about TikTok in 2024, in light of all the changes, the algorithm shifts, and whether or not it's still worth it for you. But first, 2 comments on Sue Campbell's episode. Matt Goodall said, "My goodness, this episode is jam-packed with such useful content. I really liked how she encouraged you to drill down into Tara's details to better understand your target audience. Incredibly helpful. Thank you." So as I record this, it is Wednesday the 17th of July and we are due to fly to New Zealand on Saturday the 20th of July. However, my wife dislocated her knee on Friday the 12th and it has been a little bit touch and go as to whether or not we are going to go. So you will hear from me in some of the following episodes, which I'm going to record after the final decision has been made. And you'll know whether or not we are going. Even if we're not, I might still let a couple of episodes run without an intro, just because I need the break. Even if we don't go, I still need some time off to just decompress. But hopefully we will be there and I will be sharing all of my pictures and stuff on Instagram. So in other news then, it is my launch day. And it is by far and away the best launch I've ever had. I had roughly, I think I added it up this morning, and it was between 1,700 and 1,800 pre-orders across all of the stores. Nearly 1,200 of those were on Amazon, which is just incredible. I've never known anything like that ever, not even close to that. So this is so far and above anything I could ever have dreamt of. I just don't even know what to say. The interesting thing for me is that a lot of the buzz and excitement comes in the lead up, which sounds very strange for somebody who's competition, but let me explain, because Ellie explained to me. So for me, come launch day, the race is over. Even though this is the prize for the race is what competition drives for, right? We live for running that race. So when the race is done, a bit like when you finish a marathon and then you fall into a bit of a slump, I find launch days particularly difficult because one race is over and the next race hasn't really begun yet. So yeah, I don't know. Like obviously, rationally, objectively, I am thrilled, but inside of my physical body today, I just don't really feel anything. And I think that's because I'm in the lull between ending this race for this launch and then starting the next one. But yeah, I sort of live off that buzz of, okay, how many pre-orders can I get today? Like, what is it today? What is it tomorrow? You know, that kind of chasing the thrill of the whatever it is you're going to get on the last bit. But then once you get it, I'm like, okay, next one, next race. Which, look, okay, I get. Probably some people are going to be like, oh, you idiot. But hey, I am number one competition. What do you want me to do? So I'm very much in the wind down point, trying to close off things for the launch, things to keep things going whilst I'm away, and just finishing off the keynote for the conference in New Zealand. And yeah, just kind of things like that, prepping the last couple of podcasts I still haven't packed, that kind of stuff. So it feels like a very odd week where I'm sort of working but not really working, but not working, if that makes sense. So I'm looking forward to just drawing a line under it. I think we've pretty much got the systems in place, everything outsourced, so when I come back things should be pretty different. And last but by no means least, the Kickstarter. Holy fucking shit. So I've been working with the amazing Maya Tate, who is an author, and she has been helping me project manage the Kickstarter, and I just can't believe how much it's been leveled up. I'm super excited for this next one, and the story page is stunning. So yeah, I can't wait for that, and I'm going to leave a link in the show notes. If you supported the first Kickstarter and are interested in the second one, please do give it a follow. I just have to tell you. So one of the things I wanted to do was level up the sex toys in the boxes. So Maya ordered some things to my house for me to kind of examine and also look at sizing so that we make sure they can actually fit in the Kickstarter boxes. And of course, my poor mum arrives as these giant toys are in my house. And my mum helped with the previous packing. So I basically was like, I have two choices here. I can either hide what I'm doing or I can show her. So I was like, so mum, how do you feel about packing these? And like kind of whipped out this giant dildo. It was hilarious. Anyway, suffice to say, I can't wait for you guys to see what we've got in store. You know, I like to level shit up. Well, I leveled this one up. Okay, all right. The Rebel of the Week this week is Holly. Holly says, back in 2016, I was working at a well-known London bookshop. I was at the front counter when a man walked in and demanded to know if we had a particular title by a Booker Prize-winning author. I knew that we had a stack of them, and this was confirmed by the computer system. I set out to find them, but after a couple of minutes of me searching, the man had had enough. He told me in no uncertain terms that the shop had really gone to the dogs. What were we doing if we didn't have the new release by this Booker Prize-winning author front and centre in the lead up to Mother's Day? He stormed out and I was left to put my hair back into place after the force of his frankly awful personality. Then I had a creeping suspicion. I returned to the front desk and typed in the Booker Prize-winning author's name. Lo and behold, Google presented me with a picture of the very same man who had just accosted me. Needless to say, when I eventually found the stack of his books, I did not, in fact, put them out front and centre. They had been put aside because they hadn't been selling. Brutal. Oh my God, I shouldn't laugh. I'm an awful person. This is so funny. Talk about karma. Oh my God. You know when you shouldn't laugh, but you can't help it. Anyway, right. Get a grip. They had been put aside because they hadn't been selling, so I saw no need to move them. Indeed, they stayed hidden away until they were eligible for return and were sent back to the publisher. Moral of the story, dear author, be nice to booksellers. Even if you won the Booker Prize back in the mid-90s, we have the power to ruin you, if only for a little bit. Not to mention the fact that I shared this particular incident with all of my colleagues, none of whom have felt the need to recommend any of his books since. I also know you're dying to know which author I'm talking about, which I clearly am. So for all you mystery fans, there are enough clues in this story for you to work it out. Oh, you're going to have to go and do a Google, I think. Oh, thank you so much for that. And please listen. So obviously, hopefully we're going to be away for a little bit, which means you won't have me begging you each week. Well, you will, because I'll be reading a story, but let me press on you the fact that I really, really, really want to carry on these. And, you know, whilst I'm away, we still need to collect new Rebel stories. So if you would like to be a Rebel of the Week, please do send in your story. It can be any kind of rebellion, something big, something small, or something in between. You can email your Rebel story to Becca over on rebelauthorpodcast@gmail.com. If anyone works it out, please do tell me which book it was. Okay, no new patrons this week, but a huge thank you to all of my existing patrons. If you would like to support the show and get early access to all of the episodes as well as bonus content, then you can from as little as $2 a month by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. Last night we had our monthly Poison and Prose session, and it was lovely actually because it was more of like a catch up. I just wanted to know how everybody was doing. We all talked a little bit about what we were working on and how we actually were. You know, people always ask, you know, how are you? But they don't really mean like, how are you? And that's what I was asking last night. We have our next masterclass, which is on sex scenes, how to write them, both spicy and sweet. And that will be in, I think it's September, is our next class. And then, of course, there is the Slack community group as well. So you can find out more about that at patreon.com/Sasha Black. Episode is sponsored by Fictionary. Fictionary is a brilliant piece of editing software. It will help you give your manuscripts a full developmental edit. The software works well on its own, but if you want to guarantee your success, Storyteller Premium users also get access to the Fictionary Live community, guided editing courses too. The amazing certified story coach editors are there to assign tasks, answer questions, and generally keep you on track. After every session, you'll have clear, practical steps to make your manuscript even more amazing. Plus, you'll also be part of a group of writers who are all working towards the same goal you are, which we all know how powerful community can be. Fictionary are also offering all of you listeners 25% off Storyteller and Storyteller Premium and certification with the code REBEL25. So make sure you go check it out. Hello and welcome to the Rebel Author podcast. Today I'm joined by Kate Hall. Kate started publishing paranormal romance in 2020 under the name Alexis Pierce. She grew her publishing into a 6-figure business. In 2022, she opened Align Digital, consulting privately with authors to help them market their books. In September 2023, she launched the course TikTok for Authors, which has since helped over 1,000 authors to increase their royalties. She's also an avid horse girl who owns 4 horses and too many dogs to mention, and as of today, a little kitten. She lives on a small farm in the Midwest with her stay-at-home husband and their 2-year-old son, who subsists on a diet of 90% chicken nuggets and 10% rage. Hello and welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. So I don't know if you remember, but we met in Vegas. I don't know if you remember.
We did. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Readers Take Denver like rebooted my brain.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yes, I do remember meeting you in Vegas because we talked and you were like, let's do the podcast. So.
Yeah, and you sold your course to me, which admittedly I haven't finished, but I did take a good chunk of it. And I have been TikToking since. So
That's awesome. I'm proud of you because a lot of people will take it and then they'll get to the point where they try to TikTok and they freeze and they're like, what if the world actually implodes when I hit this post button?
Well, so it was a bit of a combo of you and then Adam Beswick, who kind of forcefully encouraged me through a bit of like accountability to post. So I think I started, it was either the 19th or the 20th of November, and I started posting, and I think I was posting like 2 to 3 at that point. And then from December onwards, I was posting 3 to 4 posts a day. And I've done it every single day since. I have not missed a day. And it's changed our lives, literally changed our lives financially. So I am also another one of those people that can thank TikTok for that. But this isn't about me. So this is about you. And
it should be. I want to hear more about how it changed your life. That makes me so happy. I was really shocked at how many people said that sentence to me because I was like, yeah, now you'll be able to know how to post on your TikTokies and it'll be fun. And then people will be like, oh my God, my life is forever changed. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like it literally blew up my business. And I was just able to reach like a real niche subset of people. And we haven't looked back. It's just continued to increase ever since. And it's actually fucking bonkers to look at where I was 6 months ago and to where I am today. I mean, well, it's made me a 6-figure author, let me put it that way.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask you privately more specifically about your royalties because now I'm curious. I'm just nosy. I just want to know.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so this isn't about me. This is about you. And I would love to know a little bit more about your journey. Like, how did you get to where you are? What has been your journey? Why TikTok? Like, what happened? What happened to you?
Okay, so I was fairly successful at publishing in 2020. I had a Dragon Shifter reverse harem romance that did really, really well for a first series. I mean, it wasn't my first book, but it was my first book as Alexis Pierce. And that series did incredibly well. And then I found out that that was because I appealed to Universal Fantasy. Shout out to Theodora Taylor for changing my life in the past year too. But I didn't know why I was succeeding, which means I didn't know why it succeeded. And so then whenever I had to actually put work into marketing my books, my business absolutely tanked. By the time I realized what was happening, I was pregnant and I was stuck in a lease on a house that was 1,300 US dollars a month. Thankfully, we owned our car outright at that point. I had bought a car in cash. That's one very sensible thing that I did. Um, and everything tanked. It fell apart. We lost the house. We moved back into my mom's house with a baby. And then we got a shed, like a 30-foot long shed, which is like 10 meters ish. We got like a 30-foot shed. We built it out somewhat, mostly not super well, so that we could live in it and not live inside of my mom's house. It didn't even have plumbing. We would have to use my mom's house for plumbing. No, it was really rough. It was a very hard time, and we still had four cats in living in that tiny shed with us. And everything was just really, really hard and really stressful. And then my computer that I had bought in 2018, it was a MacBook Pro, died. I went to work on one of my books one day, and I clicked the button to turn it on. It opened, and then it made that little sound that Macs make, like the little mechanical whiz sound that they make when they just fucking die. Um, and so I posted on Facebook. I was like, I'm giving up on writing forever. I'm all done forever. This was in 2022, about 6 months before I started everything that this has become, funny enough. So that December, it was at the end of November, beginning of December, one of my friends texted me. Her name is Luna Pierce. She's my best friend in the whole world. Most people have heard of her because she's the TVP girlie on TikTok. If you don't know what that is and you're not a smut reader, do not Google it. So she messaged me and was like, hey, can you post on my secondary account? I know you're having a hard time. And I know you have no idea what to do with TikTok, but I just have this specific type of post. Can you start posting these on TikTok once a day? And I will help you buy like an old refurbished computer. And she did. I started posting for her. It was like December 3rd of 2022. And I was so anxious every single time I had to post. I was posting once a day. And usually it was about 5 minutes before I fell asleep because I would be almost asleep and then be like, shit, I didn't post today. But I got a 2014 desktop Mac and kind of got back to work. I was like, you know what? If she's going to be paying me to do this, I'm going to start learning a little bit about TikTok. After about 10 days of posting for her, I started posting my own books again. I was down to about $350 to $400 a month on my income by then. And that was really stressful. When books are your entire income, it's so, so stressful when your income goes from, $5,000 a month paying all your bills to you're at $300 a month, struggling to survive. We didn't have heat in our house. I live in Missouri, and it's in the center of the United States. And not a lot of people are aware that even though I'm quite a bit further south than states like Minnesota or, the country of Canada, even though I'm quite a bit further south than a lot of that, we have these really harsh winters because of this vortex caused by the way our country is, because of the mountain ranges and everything. So we had no heat, and it was a solid Fahrenheit. It would go to like negative 10 or 15 degrees Fahrenheit, which is negative 20 something degrees, negative 30 something degrees Celsius. I cannot remember. I could be fully wrong on that.
Cold is the point.
And so, yeah, it was cold and it was stressful and I couldn't live. And it was really, really bad. I was definitely at one of my darker points in life. I was suffering from postpartum depression. So 10 days after I started posting for my friend, I posted my first TikTok. And it didn't really do shit. It really didn't. The next day, though, I posted one again. And the next day I posted one again. And within a week, my first post went viral on my own books. And within that first bit, I had 3 weeks left, 2 weeks left of December. I made an extra $1,000 for my books
Oh my God, I
from
love this
posting
so
once a
much.
day.
So this is so similar to my story. So obviously, like when I started my account, it was January 23, and
Mhm.
I had a goal. I literally started around really around the first. It wasn't quite the first, but it was more or less the first. And I wanted to get 1,000 followers by the end of January so that I could have the link because I was releasing in February, which
Mhm.
I did. I did it in 3 weeks. And then I basically just left the account. Like I
Yep.
got through the launch and then didn't do a lot because I wasn't going viral and I didn't really understand the app and I didn't understand hooks and all the rest of it. And then obviously I met you, I met Adam. Adam was like, no, you're fucking doing it. And literally, so we met in Seville, Adam and I, and we did a pinky promise, and he was like, by this time next year, next Seville, you'll be a six-figure author. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it actually happened, and we had like another pinky like cuddle in Seville, which was incredible. But so I started on the 19th, 20th of November, and on the 10th of December, I went viral. Well, I say it's like micro viral. It's more fucking viral than I've ever been. It was viral
How
enough to like
viral? What was the
uh
number?
like 600 and something thousand, 660, I think it was.
Micro viral. That's super fucking viral in my books. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so that like
Um,
tripled my income that month, and we have not looked back since. I've done quite a few. Not, I've not had another one do that, but I've had quite a few do 250, that kind of region. And it's enough, even the 10K ones, it's enough to change your life. It's enough. Like you
yeah.
don't need to have a million view video. But let's get into TikTok because that is
Yes,
what you
absolutely.
are, a pro, and this is what we're here to talk about. So do you think it's still worth authors trying TikTok now in 2024? So, as we record this, it's the middle of June 2024. Is it too late? There's lots of fear mongering, lots of talking about how it's too late to do anything in TikTok. So, just talk about the platform. Why should they still think about it? And that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah. So, a few things on that. People are always going to say it's too late for anything. If like I'm about to turn 30 and people are going to be like, it's too late for you to buy a boat and go through and buy a sports car. I don't know. Is that what 40-year-old men do? I know I'm only about 30, but 30 for women is 40 for men. Is it too late for me to do that? Is it too late for me to start this other thing? And there's no such thing as too late to start something. And part of the thing with TikTok now, now that we're in summer, which the week that we're recording this, TikTok is throwing a big old bitch fit and not wanting to function. And so I've paused posting just for the week. I'm not like, I'm going to just never come back to it. I go into these cycles where I'll be like, okay, it's not working this week. We're wasting too much effort. Let's pause it for a week, let the accounts rest. We'll post again on Monday. Um, but the thing that I've noticed is ever since Congress decided that they are going to try to ban TikTok, which it is, if they don't sell to a US company, then they're going to ban it in the US because our government sucks. Um, so ever since that happened, a lot of people who are in like the book talk space and a lot of people who are doing these like massive TikTok farms and they're posting thousands of pieces of content per author, a lot of them have started jumping ship. They're pivoting. They're pivoting to TikTok ads. They're pivoting to Instagram. And so honestly, now more so than a year ago is a better time to get started on TikTok because other people, these like mass accounts that are very nearly spamming book talk are kind of disappearing. So this is our time to shine as people who are like, I have one phone, I post on one account once a day, or I post on four accounts twice a day, or whatever it is. Um, because honestly, if anything were to happen to TikTok, it wouldn't happen until 2024. We are during an election year in the United States. If you're not in the United States, honestly, just like target it towards the UK or target it towards Australia. There's a fuck ton of readers in the UK and Australia. You can make a ton of money from your books just targeting, that one area. Just if you're not in that country, set up a VPN and get a US SIM card. They're like $10 on Amazon. or a whatever country you're targeting, I should say, SIM card. They're very cheap. And, start setting up because if you keep telling yourself, well, it's too late for me to start on this, so I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Then when is it not going to be too late? We're always so scared of change that we start to convince ourselves, well, it's too late to start this. It's too late. Like, if I look at it, it's too late for me to start a YouTube account, but I started a YouTube account and I've started posting on it at least once a month for the past few months.
I think people really underestimate small gains. Like,
Mhm.
I think that more than anything is what TikTok has shown me. Even on the days where my videos are only getting 1,500 views or, 3,000 views, that is still enough, like generatively, like, because I always think TikTok is a bit like book publishing, right? 70% or let's say a bit of a different ratio. Let's say 60% of your income comes from your backlist, 40% comes from your front list. And I feel like that's the same on TikTok. 60% of your views come from backlist videos and 40% come from your newest videos. And so even if you're only getting, 1,000 views, 3,000 views, 200 views, whatever, these are still, because of the way TikTok works, still new people to you, or the majority of them are new people. So it's basically free ads. Like it's insane.
Yeah. And if you're spending a ton of time on ads anyway, because I've seen people who are like, well, I run Facebook ads, so I don't have to do as much. Meanwhile, they're working 4 hours a day on their ads.
Right. And I
I'm like,
spend like maybe an hour on TikTok. That's it.
right. Yeah. And so, that pretty much that. And it is cumulative. And you're going to see, obviously, you're going to see spikes when you get those super viral videos, but you're
Yeah.
going to see consistently when you have consistently good views, consistently over 1,000 views, you're going to start to see an income.
Yeah, yeah. I can literally match my income to views, which is equally terrifying as being a KU author. I don't really want to rely on TikTok either, but I'll just pivot if it does die, I'll pivot to something else. But anyway, what other than not starting, which is kind of one of the things that you've said, what are the other mistakes that you see authors making with TikTok?
The biggest thing that I always see, it's kind of two things in one. So I'm gonna do two things. And I will tell you, I'm gonna answer all of these questions way extensively. So you said it's gonna take about 45 minutes for this interview. We're gonna be here 2 hours. Because I want people to have all of the answers by the end of this. So the biggest mistake that I see authors make is that when they're posting on TikTok, they are trying to advertise their book. And I know that sounds really silly to be like, yeah, Kate, obviously that's why the fuck I'm on TikTok. I don't want to be here. I just want to advertise my book. But when something looks like an ad and we can feel that people are just selling at us, then we don't like it. Our body rejects it because we've been seeing constant ads nonstop since we were, this tall. I don't know if you were ever this tall. I probably wasn't. I'm a very tall person, but we start to reject them and we get this thing called ad blindness. It's a real thing that people have studied in psychology and sociology where we just stop seeing ads. What's the last Facebook ad that you noticed? Like, what's the last
Actually,
commercial?
I do know, but if it weren't for what it is, I wouldn't know. It's Katie Roberts' Kickstarter, and the only reason I know is because I've backed it already. But that is,
Okay, see? So
yeah,
it's something you were already looking
yeah,
for.
yeah.
And so that's the thing. When we're forcing ads at people, then, people aren't going to see them. They're going to scroll right past. They're not going to stay on it. And along these lines, people will post their book covers, they'll post their blurb and be like, yes, this is good. This is how people want to get my book. They want the blurb and they want the book cover, and that's it. Or they want me to pull up my camera and be like, hi, I'm Kate, and I decided to talk to you all today about, and by the time you get to hi, because you took a breath before you started talking, by the time you get to the word hi, people are gone. So just trying to advertise and trying to just do this, just pushing, pushing, pushing of your content versus trying to find ways to get people organically interested. Because what gets people interested in a book? What gets people to fall in love with a book, if not for the emotional scenes, the way that we connect emotionally to a character? Because I have read 1,000 books, maybe, I don't know, I haven't counted. I've read a lot of books, but many of them I will start to read it and it is info dumping, and that's what blurbs often are. They're kind of info dumping, but they do give us an idea of what the book is about. But what we're doing on TikTok, we're not finding out what the book is about. We're finding out why we should read the book. We're finding out why we should go to the Amazon page and give it a chance. We're trying to direct people to the Amazon page with our TikToks. So they're going to see your cover there. They're going to see your blurb. So what we want to do for a TikTok is post that really hard-hitting emotional content right off the bat. We want to post, she walks into the room and her kidnapper sees her after he had let her go, and he sees the bruise on her face and puts his hand on her cheek and says, "Who did this to you?" That's the stuff that's going to make people feel something. That's the thing that's going to make people say, "What the hell is this book? I need to see what this is because I suddenly care very much about these characters."
Yeah, I find
So
it
it's about
really
them.
I find it really interesting because the male-female romance and darker romance I find on TikTok, that is exactly what works. And it's almost like you're telling a story in like a copywritten story almost, you know, that very short, punchy, like 1, 2 hook, reveal, hook, like kind of
Yes.
thing. But for more niche people, I don't always find that works. So for me, for example, I have tried and tried and tried to get that to work, but I write basically spicy lesbian fantasy romance and it doesn't work. The things that work the most for me are when you've been looking for, because that's what my readers struggle to find content that they
Right.
want, right? So them, the hook is almost like when whoops, I'm trying to demolish my knee. When you've been looking for, you know, sapphic whatever, because I can't find anything.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like I desperately want those hooky romance ones because I look at the mafia ones and I like drool over the hooks. But for whatever reason, I think maybe it's because we are marginalized. I don't know. And so we go on there
Hmm.
like trying to just search for connection and for people. Maybe because we're still in blue waters. I don't know, right? There's not enough supply for the demand. Whereas
Right.
when you've got
Yes.
supply for the demand, then you have to get smarter. Then you have to tell a better story, write a better hook. I feel like I'm cheating because it's so easy just to be like, oh, are you looking for blah, 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 you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Whereas,
and I will say, whenever you're appealing to romance readers and that romance trope, like I was talking about, like those types of scenes,
mm,
you're going to get a lot of people when you try to appeal to that with, say, sapphic romance, you're going to get a lot of people who are like, no, I need a penis in this scene. I need to read about wieners doing things to vaginas or other wieners.
well, and you
Um,
know the funny thing? Some of my posts, in fact, the quantity of posts that have gone viral on my TikTok that contain strap references, so hopefully people understand what I'm saying,
right.
is extremely high. The ratio of fucking strap TikToks compared to non-strap TikToks is insane. They all post, and it's just like, come on.
Yeah. So, and I think that part of it with yours as well, though, is just there is still a lot of lesbophobia in.
Yeah,
I think that was the term whenever I was writing FF books 5 years ago. I don't know
yeah.
if it's still.
Probably. Who knows? I know what
But
you
that
mean, though, and
was
listeners will too, so
yes,
that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. People are really terrified of tacos. Um,
ever. Oh my God, I'm literally stealing that. That has made my day. That is absolutely hilarious. Okay, so you said there were two mistakes. I think you definitely covered one. Did you cover the second one? I can't remember.
So the mistakes put together are basically you're advertising, you're throwing book covers in front of
Okay.
people and saying, "Here's my book, read my book," and then you're throwing a blurb that's, "Here's the book, read my book."
Okay,
And
brilliant.
they're just kind of combined. And then there's a lot of other mistakes I always see, which I always say, hey, make longer content because TikTok likes longer content. It's based off of the number of seconds people watch. And you know this from taking the course. I say that a lot. And then what do? People send me a message and they're like, your stuff doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work. Here's my posts that aren't working. I did exactly what you said. And I'm like, this is 6 slides. Of course it's not working. This is 6 images. This is going to take someone 10 seconds top to scroll through. So, like, it's, yeah. And so making shorter content is another bonus mistake here. Just throwing in that bonus content for you.
Okay, so we've heard about the mistakes. What about the things people should be doing? So you alluded to lots and lots of slides. What are we talking? Are we talking 10 slides, 30 slides? What are we talking? Are we talking about 1 minute videos, 30-minute videos? Because I think that's now a thing, isn't it?
Oh God, why?
I know, right? Yeah. So, what are the types of content that do tend to perform well? And of course, just to remind listeners, we are talking about this in June 2024, and things change constantly. But yeah, how can authors do TikTok well?
Okay, so longer content is going to do better, and I think it's going to continue to do better on TikTok for a long time. Which is why I still talk about it like in the course and I still post about it because a lot of what I talk about in the course is like evergreen advice and then advice of like, here's this weird thing and number of hashtags you should be using this week. That's the kind of stuff I post in like the Facebook group. But things that are working. So slides, TikTok's current maximum is 35 slides on their photo carousel mode, where you can swipe through at your own pace. If you're on TikTok, and you go down to the bottom whenever you're posting something, you can click a button that says photo, and you can select up to 35 images from your phone so that you can post them. That is the maximum number. So I do not ever do less than 20 slides, but I prefer not to do less than 25 slides because I find that giving people about 2.5 seconds per slide is a pretty solid assumption, which means that they're going to go over 60 seconds. If you can get people watching for more than 60 seconds consistently, you're going to have viral content. You have viral potential. So all of my clients, every time I don't just do like, checking in the group now and then. Occasionally I'll do these workshops where I do a lot of one-on-one work. And every single time a client is like, yeah, I've had some go viral and I've had some that do consistently well, but I can't figure out the difference between this one and this one. And then I look at the little number at the top of the screen and I'm like, yeah, this one is 19 slides. This one's 32 slides. That's why this one's doing better. That's the entire reason. They're almost the exact same scene, but one of them is significantly longer. Even just making people take that extra second to swipe their finger is going to keep them on there longer. So if you have one slide that's 3 sentences, split those sentences into their own slides, and that's going to add multiple seconds on to the time it takes.
Okay,
So
so
longer content. Yeah.
let's talk about that because I think that's a really important point. How do you take a scene that might be 1,000, 1,500 words and condense it into 32 slides or 30 slides? Because you just talked there about splitting sentences. So can you maybe talk about that structure a little bit more, how people can condense the kind of phrasing and styling people should be thinking about when they create the slides, and put the text on the slides?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a full, like, very strict formula I follow when pulling hooks now. Just gonna plug Book Marketing Pro real quick. It's one of my other courses and it's cheaper and you can use it for like any socials, not just TikTok, whatever. But what I do, and here's how I pull my hooks. I cannot go into the 5 hours of detail I go into there, but I'm gonna give you what I can. So how I do it is I will copy and paste the scene from my book onto a Word document. I don't go into Excel at this point. That's right. You asked me how I do this, and I'm getting really specific. Copy and paste it into Excel, and then I split it up. If there is a comma that makes it a compound sentence, I'm going to split it at that comma. I'm not going to split it if it's like the man, comma, whose name was Jeff, comma, like I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to split it there. But if it's a compound sentence, if it's like, she went to the grocery store and he went to the pet store, then I would have and he went to the pet store as a new slide. So the way that I structure them is I always have them be 10 words-ish. On the longer side, I'll go up to 14. And if it's the first slide, that big hook that we want to pull people into, that's where I might go and make it like 17 to 22 words, because I find that people are a little more willing to read a little more text, not a huge wall of text. We don't want a wall of text where people have to squint. If you were to show your mom and she had to grab the phone and do this, then it's too much text. Also, this is a podcast. I should have clarified. If she has to like telescope the phone to focus her eyes in, then it's too much text. So I use 40-point font whenever I do everything on Canva because it makes my life a million times easier. And so I will do either short sentences or I will split longer sentences into two. And I cut out any extraneous detail. I don't need to know that your main guy's name is Jennifer. I don't know why his name is Jennifer. His parents sucked. We don't need to know that because when they're going to be like, how have you been, Jennifer? People are going to be like, who the fuck is Jennifer? Or who the fuck is Jacob? Or who the hell is Max? Like, I don't know these people because we're not giving people the long introduction. We're not saying, we're not giving them the context of he's your ex-boyfriend. You were totally in love in high school. And then he totally ghosted you one day. We're not giving them that context because this isn't the scene for it. We're giving them the context of, what are you doing here? She looked at her ex, who is in her driveway. She tried to call 911 because of a break-in, yet he showed up. Like this, like we're doing scene context. So I cut out anything that's world building context. Also, that scene is just something I pulled entirely out of my ass. So don't evaluate the timeline or plot holes in that amazing scene I just created. But I always take out anything that's not scene relevant. If you don't need it to understand the scene, you don't need it. And I'm saying this especially to my overwriters because I'm an underwriter. I'll be like, this book was supposed to be 100,000 words and it's 20,000. How? But I know a lot of people.
I'm a chronic underwriter too. And my first draft for this last book was 80K and ended up over 100. So I get it. I'm also a chronic underwriter.
I think my longest published book right now is 65,000 words. So, and I'm working on one that I'm like, this should be 100,000.
So my last few have all been really close to. I seem to be getting longer, but I write very short first drafts and then have the pain of having to add it all in edits.
Mine are definitely getting longer because I used to write ones that were like 20,000 word novellas, and that was the most I could write. And now I'm like, I can draft a book at 65K.
Yeah.
And so as I've gone on, I've gotten a lot better at like adding detail because some people want to know that the curtains were blue, I guess.
How do authors even find their readers on TikTok?
What's the best way for me to say this? You don't. You let TikTok do the work for you. It's TikTok. People think TikTok's algorithm is so deeply complex and impossible and mysterious that any single thing you do is luck. Sasha, from your experience, is it luck or is it consistency?
That's such a hard question because I feel like it is Maybe
So,
neither. So let me answer why I feel that.
okay.
So a lot of people talk about consistency with TikTok, and I do think there is merit in that
Mhm.
but because of the consequence of it, right? So the consequence of consistency is that you're publishing a lot of content. If you're publishing a lot of
Yes.
content, you are naturally going to reach more readers because 90%
Mhm.
of people that TikTok shows your videos to are new people. But the other thing that consistency does is it means you create this prolific amount of content, which means if you're paying attention, you are trialing and testing and experimenting. And the only way to get better at something is to do it a lot. And therefore you can then see, what works, what doesn't. And the other part of consistency is that things change. So if so I think you could produce the same results by doing a shitload of content in a very small space of time, but you wouldn't
Yes,
then be relevant. Right.
like when I was posting 3 times a day on 11 accounts.
Right. But then you wouldn't be relevant if you stopped and you left 2 months, right? You wouldn't then be relevant. And if you want consistent income, you have to be consistent at posting. So yes, I do think there is consistency, but I also think it's it's because of what consistency creates, which is a lot of content, and something eventually will go
Yes.
viral if you're iterating and paying attention. So the other bit that I think it
Yes.
is
If
paying.
your content is optimized and
Right.
you pay attention to what's working.
And that's the
Um,
second bit. That's the other bit that I think people that is what really makes
yes.
TikTok work is analyzing what you have done, what the statistics that because TikTok gives you a ton of statistics, and
Yeah.
analyzing those statistics. I think that and then redoing and tweaking and iterating the things that have worked. That is
Yeah.
because once I've found a piece of content, I will and it's not like, is it spamming? I don't know. But I will reuse the shit out of that content until it stops working.
It's not spamming if TikTok keeps showing it to new people.
Right,
That's the
exactly.
thing. So back to your actual question about how do you find your readers? Like, again, people think that TikTok is this big, complicated beast, but really it's just put good keywords in. I can be like, yes, use excellent SEO, optimize your SEO. And that sentence sounds a little bit difficult and nerve-wracking, but what it really is throw in your caption paranormal book or paranormal romance book recommendations or sapphic summer reads or the type of book you're putting. Put that in the put that in the caption, throw it into a comment, put use those as your hashtags. Let people know or let TikTok know, here's the category I want my post in, and it's going to put that in that category. If the rest of it isn't optimized, then they're not going to show it to people. But the way that their algorithm works is if your content is approved by TikTok, if TikTok's AI bots, whatever, if they are going to look at it and say, yes, we're going to spread this around, we're going to share it, they're going to look at it and determine that it's not pornography. Because what about the children is the excuse Congress used to try banning it like a year ago. And now it's what about national security? Spoiler alert, if you're worried about like the security thing, all US data is on US servers inaccessible by any part of China or the Chinese government. But I digress. I'm bitter about that because people know nothing about servers and computer safety and anything. But anyway, so tell TikTok where you want the content. If your content is optimized, if you're making stuff that TikTok is not going to flag to itself, it might not say, hey, you have a community guidelines violation, or hey, your content has been flagged. It's not going to tell you, but you're going to see the signs. There's going to be views that are, 30 views, 40 views, 60 views, 0 views on a week, unlike this week where other people are doing really, really well, where most people are doing well when they're just starting out or when they haven't been posting in a while. Um, because people like Sasha, like your stuff is going to do better on down weeks because you have been very consistent and TikTok rewards that. But if you're just starting out or if you haven't been super consistent, you're going to see super low numbers if TikTok thinks something is wrong with your content. However, if TikTok sees it and says, no, there's nothing wrong with it, then they're going to show it to 200 to 300 people. Their algorithm is going to analyze the information on that. And then they are going to either stop showing it to people because people aren't staying on that piece of content for very long, or they are going to push the absolute shit out of it. Or in between. I guess they could do in between. Sometimes they do in between, like 3,000 to 4,000 or 5,000 views. But you will know when they start pushing the shit out of it as well. And the interesting thing is these 200 to 300 views, they can be instantaneous. They can be over the course of an hour, but it's usually between instant to an hour, that first 200 to 300 views. However, when TikTok analyzes that content, when their bots analyze the content, it's then going to determine if it's going to push it out, when it's going to push it out. Because it's going to know based off of your content and based off of your views, what the absolute best audience is going to be and when they're going to be online.
Yeah,
so you could have a video sitting at 300 views for a week and then suddenly it gets 1 million views.
Right. I was just going to say that didn't used to be the case, but of late I have noticed that views tick up after about a week instead of almost, because when I first started, I used to be able to know within about 45 minutes whether or not the post was going to get me 5,000 views or 15,000 or 1,000 basically. But now you can't really tell. You get a little bit of an indication, but you don't really know anything until about a week out. It's really weird.
Yes, and that is a rolling change that's been kind of rolling out and getting stronger over about the past year. Since last summer is when they started really doing that YouTube thing of like, we're going to show it to some people, but it's going to be a few days before we decide exactly how it's going to do.
Well, we are running out of time. So I'm going to ask you 2 more questions. Okay. And the first one is, what are the best metrics to work out if you're doing well? What are the best metrics to pay attention to when you have posted to work out whether or not you've done something right?
Sorry, I had something cut in my throat. The best way to determine if you're doing well and if you're doing something right is if your views are over 1,000 pretty consistently. And if you're selling books, because if you're getting 5,000 views a day and you're not selling books, then sure, your thing is catchy and people are interested and they're staying around and reading it, but they're not going in and buying it. So your views being consistently over 1,000, if your views are consistently over 1,000, it's just a matter of time before you go viral. It really is. You're going to go viral at least every now and then. It might not be 2 million views like one of my people had on her like 3rd video she posted somehow.
Oh, shut up. Oh my God.
It was ridiculous. But it's, if you're consistently over 1,000 views, then you've got the right idea and you're going to have viral content. But you also need to start keeping an eye on if that correlates to a revenue increase. Because I have some hooks that do really well and have really high views, but they do not correlate to sales.
So this is so interesting. And I have one of my series in KU and one of my series out of KU. And every time I get a video go for the series that's in KU, I literally make half the amount of money that I do when the series wide blows. When that blows, fucking hell, it is a very good day.
Yes, so it's so interesting. You know what? I want to point out, based off of that and based off of what I've heard from a lot of people, TikTok is really fucking good for wide authors.
Unreal. It really makes me want to pull the other series. The only reason I don't is because I wrote that series for KU and I wanted it to be one of those friction-free, easy ways to go into into my books, and I always plan to be wide after that, so I keep it in there purely for that. But KU's like ranges between 10 and 20% of my income, but most months it's down at about 11%, so I'm just like, I don't even know why I'm keeping it in anymore, but it is easy access.
Yeah,
okay.
I was really shocked when I was getting started how many people messaged me and was like, I am wide, and had my first $1,000 day on just Amazon, not including any of my other revenue streams. I was like, oh shit, dude, thank you for telling me. That is gonna break my brain. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. The last question then is, what about not being on camera? What about people who are afraid of showing their face? Maybe they want anonymity, or maybe they're just scared. Can you still TikTok?
Absolutely. Everything I've talked about today, the slideshows that I do, I don't show my face. I have accounts where I show my face, but those are not my main accounts. Those are not my money-making accounts. Those are my for fun accounts because I need attention. My money-making accounts are slideshows with stock images in the background. I don't include people in the slideshows because people like TikTok's bots will see a hand and be like, I know what hands are for. So I don't even include people. Like I don't just not include my face. I don't include any people. I use flowers or forests or roads or apartment buildings or beds or whatever.
Castles do very well for me.
What does?
Castles.
I thought you said assholes. I was like, I don't know how that would do so well.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. No, just a castle. That's so funny.
Castles, I'm sure they do much better than some guy being,
his
ass out.
Yeah. Although there's nothing wrong with a bit of a peach, hey?
There very much is. TikTok will ban
TikTok.
you and your device.
They really would.
Yeah. But yes, so I don't show my face, and I highly encourage you, if you're afraid of doing TikTok because you don't want to sing and dance, like you don't have to. You don't have to show your face. You don't have to talk to the camera. You don't have to show the inside of your house while you're holding up a book. You don't have to do any of that. I do stock images. I do Canva, and I don't use any of my own stuff other than the words I have written for my book. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that we're telling people, we're saying, hey, here's what to expect. We're showing you an expectation. You know that old writing advice, show, don't tell? Or yeah, we're showing them what they should expect from the book. We're not just telling them necessarily, hey, this is a book and you will like it because it is romance. Although if you're in certain categories, you might be able to just be like, hey, this is a sapphic fantasy romance. And people will be like, that's what I want. I need it. I need more. You
would be shocked at how many videos literally are just like, sapphic romantasy, and there's a strap, and it will it's actually appalling. But
maybe I should start sharing my sapphic YA that I wrote in 2019 because I have a lot of it.
If you really, then I probably would, because people are like ravenous for sapphic content. Okay, well, this is the Rebel Author Podcast. So tell everyone about a time you unleashed your inner rebel.
I mean, okay, let's be honest here for a moment. Being unapologetically fat, female, and queer is inherently rebellious. In anything, especially when you put yourself out there, which I do a lot. I post videos of myself. I'm fat on camera. I've been posting aesthetic content from my trip to Mexico, and I am 250 pounds in a bikini, and I look fine as hell. So I think that in itself is an act of rebellion. But on, and just being unapologetic. And I think that's where I get a lot of my spread. A lot of what resonates with people is that they're able to see me being unapologetic and putting myself out there and saying, hey, why the fuck should I worry what other people think of me, what other people think of my content? Because if I don't share it, then I'm not going to make money. And so if my concern is that I share it and that a couple of people will be mad that I'm making money, like then I'm losing money. I'm losing income for my 2-year-old, for my husband, for my family, for the horse that I showed up with whenever I told my husband I wouldn't go to the sale barn and come home with a pony for my son. And in my defense, this is the other act of rebellion. In my defense, he wasn't a pony. He was an 18-hand tall Percheron, which is 6 feet tall at his shoulder.
Oh my goodness me.
So in my defense, I didn't come home with a pony for my son, but that was a little bit of rebellion that I may or may not have done.
I love
well.
horses, and my wife absolutely hates them. I used to ride when I was a young, well, yeah, I would say like a tween. I rode for a really long time, and yeah, I absolutely love them. So the fact that you've got horses, I'm very jealous.
You should come to my house and we'll ride horses. I'm getting a new horse this summer.
Another one.
And I'm so excited. Well, okay, I don't own a horse I can ride. So I'm getting a new one this summer. She's extraordinarily well trained for reining, which is a sport that I love. And she's not a rebellion because I told my husband ahead of time that I'm getting her.
Amazing. Okay, well, tell everyone where they can find out more about you, your courses, and anything else that you'd like to add.
Yeah, fantastic. I am Kate Hall. You can literally find me anywhere. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just look up at Kate Hall Biz, YouTube as well. Because while I do have my paid courses that are on aligndigital.com, use Sasha's link, please. She's going to get a little bit of money back for every course sold. Plus, she has a coupon code. So, like, why wouldn't you? Right? So I have several courses at this point. I have Self-Publishing Success. If you've been considering publishing, but you're really intimidated by the process, it's going to walk you through how to self-publish books and set yourself up for future success. And then I've got Book Marketing Pro, which is about how to write marketing hooks. And those you can use anywhere. They are not just for TikTok. I have TikTok for Authors, which is where the whole thing started. And TikTok for Authors is my top selling course. I have, at the point of recording this episode, over 1,500 people have taken this course. And I have gotten hundreds of messages from people saying how it's changed their life. And then I'm also, because of course some people are concerned that TikTok is going to crash and burn and die forever. And we as authors need some reassurance. We are anxious creatures by nature. So I've got Streamline and Sell, which is more about streamlining this process for other social media. So I have a lot of things and they're all on Align Digital. Please use Sasha's link because I want her to know that she is very appreciated.
Oh. Well, thank you. And I will make sure all of those are in the show notes as well. So thank you very, very much.
Perfect.
And of course, a giant thank you to all of the show's listeners and all of the show's patrons. If you would like to get early access to all of the episodes, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/Sasha Black. I'm Sasha Black. You were listening to Kate Hall, and this was the Rebel Author Podcast. Next week, I'm talking to debut traditionally published author Cara A. Kennedy, who writes sapphic thrillers for young adults. So join me next week for that. Don't forget to tune in and subscribe on your podcatcher. And when you have a moment, please leave a review.